Previously, on A Love That Lingered, the shadow of war loomed ever closer. Yet for a brief time, Arthur and Grace clung tightly to the light of their love. Arthur carried the burden of what might come, hiding his fear as best he could, while Grace sensed the quiet storm inside him. Still, together they pushed forward, holding fast to hope, and the day they had dreamed of finally arrived. This is episode 20, The Day We Became One. The morning dawned soft and golden, as though the sun itself had been summoned to bear witness. A delicate mist rose from the gardens of Caldwell Manor, curling over the hedges and roses, touched by dew. The air carried the faint fragrance of lavender, and somewhere in the distance birds sang their earliest song. Grace awoke with her heart drumming as though she had run a mile. Today. The word echoed through her entire being. Today, she would walk the garden aisle and give herself wholly to the man who had long ago claimed her heart. Her family had arrived the night before, the manor suddenly alive with laughter, chatter, and the bustling noise of final preparations. Now her chamber was filled with women, her mother Lillian, elegant and composed, arranging lace with steady hands, her older sisters Sophia and Martha, whispering conspiratorially while fastening pearl pins into Grace's red hair. Grace caught her reflection in the mirror, green eyes bright with nerves and wonder, her gown shimmering ivory with delicate embroidery Arthur had insisted she deserved. She hardly recognized herself, yet she had never felt more like herself either. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the manor, Arthur stood before a tall mirror of his own. Oliver adjusted his cravat with practiced precision, though Arthur's hands fidgeted as though he were still a boy at heart. "Breathe," Oliver murmured, a rare softness in his voice. "It is not battle you are facing, Arthur." Arthur managed a crooked smile. "It feels far greater than battle." His mother entered quietly, her gaze full of pride, her eyes damp as she looked upon her son dressed in ceremonial finery. "Your father would have been so proud," she whispered. Arthur swallowed hard, pressing a hand against his heart. He hoped, more than anything, that today would honor every sacrifice, every promise. Beyond the manor walls, rows of chairs and an arch woven with roses and trailing vines awaited. The garden had been transformed into something near celestial. Guests were gathering, nobles, family, friends, chatter humming like bees in summer. For this day, at least, the looming clouds of war had been chased away. The stakes were unspoken yet clear. Today, they would bind themselves, not knowing how much time was theirs. But time mattered little. This was the day their forever began. The ceremony began as the bells tolled noon, their notes cascading over the estate. Grace's father, steady though his eyes glistened, took her arm and led her toward the garden. Every step felt suspended, as if the earth itself held its breath. Arthur stood at the altar beneath the arch of roses. His jaw trembled once, just once, as his eyes found her. The world blurred around him, the war, the guests, even the garden itself, until there was only her, his Grace. His heart stumbled, breaking for the beauty before him, for the miracle that she was walking toward him. Gasps whispered through the guests at her radiance, but Arthur hardly noticed. He only knew that his knees felt weak, and his breath caught in his chest. When Grace reached him, her father pressed a kiss to her temple, lingering just long enough to let her feel the depth of his blessing before placing her hand into Arthur's. Their fingers intertwined instantly, like threads woven long ago. The vows were spoken softly but clearly, words not just recited but lived. Arthur promised to protect her, not merely with his sword, but with his soul. Grace promised to be his light when the world grew dark. Their voices shook, yet held steady with conviction. Rings were exchanged, lips met in a kiss that silenced even the birds. Applause and cheers rose around them, but Arthur and Grace heard only the thunderous pounding of their joined hearts. The rest of the day blurred into joy, feasting tables heavy with food and wine, laughter ringing in the halls, toasts and dances that carried them through the afternoon. Arthur scarcely let go of her hand, except to place it back against his chest, as though reminding himself she was truly there. As the sky darkened into twilight, lanterns lit the garden in golden glow. Grace laughed with her sisters, her face lit with mirth, while Arthur's gaze never wavered from her. Oliver, watching silently from the edges, allowed himself the smallest smile. His master was happy, and perhaps so was he. At last the final guests departed, the manor quieting once more. The night air was warm and still, scented with roses and lingering smoke from lanterns. Grace and Arthur slipped back into the garden, alone at last. The grass was cool beneath their feet as Arthur drew her close. No music played, but they did not need it. He took her hand and placed it gently at his heart, his other arm circling her waist. They swayed slowly beneath the arch, now half shadowed by moonlight. Grace rested her head against his chest, listening to the steady beat beneath. "Do you hear it?" he murmured. "What?" she whispered. "Our hearts," Arthur said softly. "Even now, they've found the same rhythm." Grace closed her eyes, feeling it. Two hearts, two lives, beating as one. She wished she could hold the moment forever. She wished the world would not intrude. Arthur pressed a kiss to her hair, lingering as though anchoring himself. He did not speak of war, of what might come. Tonight was not for dread. Tonight was for them, for their vows, for the promise that no matter what storms gathered, this bond would remain. The lanterns guttered in the breeze, shadows stretching across the garden. Arthur twirled Grace once more, her laughter rising like bells before he caught her back into his arms. They stilled, their foreheads pressed together. The world narrowed to the sound of their joined breaths. For one night war did not exist. The future could wait. The last dance of their wedding ended not with music but with silence, a silence filled with love, so profound it seemed to echo through the stars themselves. Yet beyond the garden, far from Caldwell Manor, drums of war beat ever louder, marching closer with every passing day.